Welcome to MogulCast, where we uncover the stories behind the world's greatest business empires. Let's get into today's story.
In April 2020, Luckin Coffee admitted it had fabricated $310 million in sales to China. The stock collapsed. Trading was halted. The company was delisted from Nasdaq by June. This was China's fastest-growing coffee empire, a company that had opened thousands of stores and beaten Starbucks in China. It was all built on a lie. This is the full story, and it is worse than you think. Luckin Coffee was incorporated in October 2017 in Beijing. By January 2018, the first shops opened in Beijing and Shanghai. The speed was staggering. By July 2018, the company secured $200 million in series of financing from Centurium Capital, Joy Capital, and GAK. By October 2018, Luckin had opened 1,300 stores, surpassing Costa Coffee to become the second biggest coffee brand in China. We will come back to one specific decision. It is the key to everything. Luckin's model was radically different from traditional coffee chains. Every purchase had to be made through its app. No cash, no counter orders. This gave the company enormous data on every customer. By 2019, Luckin stores outnumbered Starbucks locations in China. Investors were mesmerized by the growth curve. The company went public on Nasdaq, and Wall Street couldn't get enough. But behind the numbers, something was deeply wrong. The EPO gave Luckin a war chest. The company expanded at a pace the coffee world had never seen. Stores opened daily. Marketing spend was aggressive. Free coupons, heavy discounts, buy one get one promotions. Revenue appeared to skyrocket. Analysts upgraded their targets. The stock surged. Luckin was being called the next great Chinese consumer brand. But not everyone was celebrating. A group of anonymous researchers had been watching Luckin's numbers closely. Something didn't add up. The store traffic, the revenue per store, the growth claims, they seemed too perfect. The researchers dug deeper. They sent people to sit outside Luckin stores and count customers. They collected thousands of receipts. What they found would eventually destroy the company's credibility overnight. But here is what the media completely got wrong about this. Luckin was not an empty shell. The stores were real. The coffee was real. Millions of customers actually used the app every day. The fraud wasn't about inventing customers. It was about inflating the numbers to make the growth look even more spectacular than it already was. That distinction matters. It is exactly what made the deception so hard to detect. Strategy relied on a simple loop. Open stores fast, generate data, show investors explosive revenue, raise more money, repeat. But the revenue figures were inflated through fabricated transactions. The company was booking sales that never happened. At the scale Luckin was operating, $310 million in fake sales was enough to make the difference between a growth story and a collapse story. And nobody on the inside was talking. In January 2020, everything changed. Short seller Carson Block and his firm Muddy Waters Research published an anonymous 89-page investigative report on Twitter. The report claimed Luckin had falsified financial and operational figures. It included fieldwork, people physically counting store traffic and collecting customer receipts across multiple cities. The evidence was detailed, specific, and damning. Luckin immediately denied everything. For 3 months, Luckin fought the allegations. The stock held. Investors held their positions. Analysts debated the report's credibility. But internally, the company was already cracking. In April 2020, Luckin could no longer maintain the lie. The company revealed that it had inflated its 2019 sales revenue by up to $310. The admission was devastating. The stock cratered. Trading was suspended. Executives were fired. Fallout was swift and brutal. On June 29, 2020, Luckin was delisted from Nasdaq. Investors lost billions. Class action lawsuits flooded in. In February 2021, the company filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy in the United States. And if you have made it this far, you already understand something most analysts completely missed. The fraud was hiding in plain sight, in the one metric nobody thought to verify independently. But here's the part of the story most people do not know. Luckin did not die. In December 2021, a federal judge in Manhattan approved a restructuring plan that allowed the company to restructure $460 worth of debt and settle class action lawsuits. In 2022, the Wall Street Journal reported that Luckin had emerged from bankruptcy after completing its financial restructuring. Most of the top management responsible for the fraud was replaced. Against every prediction, Luckin kept growing. Today, in 2026, Luckin operates roughly 35,000 stores globally, a number that exceeds its pre-scandal footprint many times over. The app-only model survived. The customer base stayed loyal. The company kept its headquarters in Xiamen, Fujian, and continued expanding across China and internationally. The brand that committed one of the largest accounting frauds in recent memory is still serving coffee. Remember that decision we mentioned at the start? Here is what it actually cost. The decision to make every transaction flow through the app was supposed to be Luckin's greatest advantage: total data control. But that same system made the fraud possible. Because every sale was digital, fabricating transactions required only changing numbers in a database. No paper trail. No physical inventory to reconcile. The very architecture that powered the growth also enabled the deception. Founded in 2017, $200 million raised by July 2018. 1,300 stores by October 2018. Surpassed Starbucks in China by 2019. $310 in fabricated sales admitted in April 2020. Delisted from NASDAQ on June 29, 2020. Filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy in February 2021. $460 in debt, restructured by December 2021. Emerged from bankruptcy in 2022. Roughly 35,000 stores globally by the first half of 2026. The lesson is not what you expect. Luckin's fraud did not kill the company. It killed trust in the numbers. The real insight is that a business can survive its own scandal if the underlying product and customer base are real. The fake sales were layered on top of genuine demand. When the fraud was stripped away, the actual business was still large enough to live. That is the terrifying part. The lie was unnecessary. If you want to understand how this pattern repeats across every major business collapse, the next video covers a story with disturbing parallels. That one is next.
That's the story for today on MogulCast. If you found this valuable, subscribe and hit the bell. A new Empire story drops every single weekday. See you tomorrow.